We are storytellers by nature, sharing with others what we experience, perceive, and believe of life, our joys, adventures, our losses. We tell ourselves stories as well. Some leave us trapped by false beliefs and self-doubt. But there are also stories of persisting, exploring, and rising above. Stories of uncovering the truth, enabling powerful transformation and triumph. These are those stories. These are your stories. Hello, folks. Welcome to And So It Is. Excuse me. It's going to be one of those mornings. My name is Zoe DeMuro, and I am the host of And So It Is, Stories of Truth, Transformation, and Triumph. My pronouns are he and him, and as a spiritual counselor, religious science practitioner with the New Thought Media Network, and a transformational coach, both my ministry and my mission are to help people co-create their most authentic and most fulfilling life experience. So I'm truly honored and excited to bring you this show, first Saturday of the month, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. Whether this is your first time here or you're coming back, welcome. It is indeed great to have you here. You know, in each episode of this show, we explore how so many of us who have been held back by false, limiting beliefs uncovered our truth, enabling us to transform our life experience and then literally to triumph, not in spite of, but because of our spiritual journey. So, without further ado, let's get on with today's episode, because I am truly honored to have a devoted prayer partner and friend, Peggy Cotton, as my guest today. So I'm going to give you a very brief view into her life. Peggy is a licensed religious science practitioner, an accomplished artist, and a dynamic educator whose life's work blends creativity, leadership, and spiritual insight. Throughout all her many endeavors, Peggy has built a life defined by excellence and impact. Today, she channels those rich experiences into her art, creating commissioned oil paintings, teaching aspiring artists, hosting exhibitions from her Berkeley studio, The Cotton Canvas. So please join me in giving a warm welcome, a very warm welcome, to Peggy Cotton. Hello, Peg.
Hey, Joe. How are you? Thank you so much.
I am well.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you. Who is that girl? Yeah.
So let's get right into it, because I know we have a lot that we need to say. So when we look at these journeys, we always have to have a starting point, right? So when, where, geographically, time-wise, etc., where does your story today begin?
Well, I'm a Bostonian transplant who came to the San Francisco Bay Area a long, long time ago. And I was in my first marriage. When I got here, we got married and came to live here. But several months later, after being out here for about 7 years, I got a divorce. To just go right to the heart of the matter, it was not what I believed at the time. I believed so much that, this was the perfect situation, this was the perfect partnering, and that I was going to have the perfect marriage. I'm sure that I am not unusual when it comes to thinking that at all. And so I luckily, it was about 4 months since my divorce, and luckily I was still working. Thankfully, I was still working And that was really important to me because I felt totally uprooted from this divorce. I had married my childhood sweetheart who lived not too far from me back in Boston. As a matter of fact, our parents were four single people who worked in the same department store and who ended up getting married and having children. They all knew each other and celebrated their children, their births of their children, you know. And so my husband, my first husband, and I we were the middle of children of each of our families. Interestingly enough, when we told our parents that we wanted to get married, it's one of those funny things when you're so young, you hear the parents say, "Oh no, this is not a good idea." And of course, do you believe them? No. What do they know? They don't know anything. They're just parents. So we definitely lived through that time and decided we were going to do this thing on our own. And so that's kind of how it's an interesting beginning, that we should have had that experience with our families, our parents, who both said, no, you two stay friends.
That's pretty wild considering how close the two families were.
Yeah, it's amazing. But they both of them, I've learned over time, they knew their children. They knew certain aspects of their kids. They knew their kids, and they were like, "Oh no, those two, that's not a good idea. Sorry, Peg, sorry." So, dun 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 dun, we ventured forward anyway, and we got married, and we moved to California. We got away from those four people. Yes, we did, and we started life. However, what really manifested itself for me, and I really, this is such a story for me that I never will forget it. It brought out to me the me I was not. That's an interesting way to put that, I'm sure. But I felt that I knew who I was at the time, but I didn't know who I was at all. I spent years afterwards really understanding more, but I had to learn to spend time living on my girlfriend's couch, and a couch is really not a bed. She took me in, and I had to spend time not being able to eat. I couldn't think. I was really unsettled and just totally not well from this divorce. This was not what I thought I was going to be going through.
So tell me a bit about what you believed was true and what you then said, well, wait a minute, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I believe that humor and keeping harmony, and that was a part of love, and that keeping that harmony going, and being supportive of the person who was carrying the business of life, taking care of the bills, and I believe that was the role that the husband should play, and that I, as the wife, I had my role to play, and that was to keep the harmony, keep the house, turn the house into a home, get some cooking done, which I love to cook because my parents owned a restaurant, and so it didn't feel like anything being put upon me. It was something I liked to do. So I really believe that this was this was who I was. I believed that I was the perfect wife. I was the support girl. I was the yes girl. You see what I'm leading up to here.
Mhm, mhm.
And I believe that being yes was the right thing to do. And I believe that that was in my nature. This was truly the why that made me the right girl. I was the good girl to do that. And that's the other part was yes and good fell into my self-talk vocabulary. And I viewed that as a positive thing. I was not argumentative like my sister. I thought my sister needed to just calm down, just listen some more, don't be argumentative, find that spot that you can agree to. And I believe that I was really good at that. I had practiced it. I didn't know that I'd been practicing it.
Now, was that typical of what you saw in your parents? That same dynamic?
No, I did not. I didn't see that in my parents.
Interesting. So where do you think it came from?
I think it came from my grandmother. I think it came from my grandmother and my grandfather on my dad's side, because my mom was an orphan, so we didn't have anybody on her side to look at. We did look at her best friend who lived right across the street, and her husband, the way they talked, and my girlfriend's parents. You see, it always surfaced in that I didn't know them intimately. I was just visitors, right? Even with my grandparents, I didn't know them as a fellow adult because I was not a fellow adult.
Mhm.
They were on their best behavior around us grandkids. And maybe my dad says that his mom, my grandmother, she had a piece of that. She had that, yes, let me just get along to go along, and let's just keep the harmony in the house. He said, but she also had a limit, and she had a temper. She had a temper. So I, understood that much later, much later, because not only was I yes, and I wanted to be the good wife, I didn't know how to express anger. I didn't know how to do that. That was not part of the deal. I didn't want to be that argumentative person like my sister. I didn't want to be like that. Like my mother was very dictatorial. She was very strong and very influential in terms of really making sure that all of us girls did what she said we should do. And I watched my older sister get in arguments with my mom. And I didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That was not where I wanted to go. My mother was very powerful. She wasn't very tall, but she was very powerful. And we were all taller than she was. And she would say, when my sister was the tallest, my sister would try to walk over to my mother. My mother would say, sit down. and then my mother would stand up over her. So my sister had to look up to this 5 foot tall woman. And I saw that way too many times. So yeah, very fascinating to reflect upon who I was back then. Now there is one piece that's important here. I've forgotten that I really was asthmatic. I didn't, asthma played a big role. Asthma and skin issues, eczema, they kind of go together sometimes. And so I had to keep my anxiety down according to, so my father would say, just relax, just don't get too excited. We don't want you to have an asthma attack. And that was really important too. So there were contributing factors to the behavioral pattern that I established as being, good. I had a judgment label on that.
Mm-hmm.
I needed, and this was good for me. It was good for my breathing. It was good for me so that I could go roller skating or bike riding. And I used to have to take medicine for that. So um, this was something that also, it brought about fear. Now, I didn't know I felt fear, but I had fear underneath it all.
Mhm.
Yeah. I felt fear that, oh my gosh, I better not ride that bike too fast and go up and down that hill too fast, because if I have an asthma incident, I was afraid of that. That made me even more different from the other kids.
Mhm.
And then of course I had skin issues and eczema all over, and that was really already made me sort of different. So I only had a few friends because
Mhm.
as little people, as I got older, of course I had more friends and my skin got better. But there was a fear that may have started in that neck of the woods, but I think that fear permeated throughout my behavior as I approached adulthood, and
Mhm.
as I approached certain situations where I had to assert myself or take a stand or have an opinion. And I didn't really have an opinion for years. I could tell you what my parents thought. I could tell you what
Mhm.
my husband thought. I could,
Mhm.
he was a little older, and therefore he was smarter too. So he used to tell me. God bless him. And he's a smart guy, yes, but was he smarter? Well, I needed to grow is all it really meant, but I felt I didn't know that. I
Mhm.
Here I was, I was in my 20s already, and other friends of mine had already really become more independent. They really had.
Were you able to express sadness?
Yes, I could do some sadness. I could do that, and I did it in a way that was private. I didn't like to share it. I would take my book and go my room and read, go sit by the couch or something. And I didn't want to share my sadness, which is interesting, so that was too vulnerable. Of course, I didn't know how to do that at 20. I didn't know how to
Mm.
process what it was I was doing. But I could tell you one thing, I was very sure. I believed it was the right thing to do. I believed it too. This is the right way to do this. Don't bother anybody else with this. You just go take care of this on your own. Very interesting to reflect back on those days.
Yeah,
Very.
well, considering that, you were trying to be the good girl for everybody and the one that made everybody happy, and you were fearful, it's like that combination, um, yeah,
Yeah,
that would definitely push you into that corner.
yeah, it pushes you right over there. And I think there had to be something powerful in my life to happen with my choices to. Of course, I didn't look at it this way. I, as a practitioner now, and have been for a while now, uh, there had to be something to kind of nudge me, to knock me off my track that I had worn out, and to create a new track for myself.
Mhm.
Um, that insecurity that I had that came up, it manifested itself in my singleness and my divorce. I was like, oh my gosh, my husband's right. I'm not smart. I don't know how to take care of the bills, or I don't know how to take care of taxes, and and yet I did know how to do some things. I didn't realize it, but I knew how to add, subtract, and multiply and divide. I mean, I didn't give myself any credit for a while, and then I started to, as I was living with a friend, uh, she asked me a question one day, and she said, how did you figure out you could buy those shoes or something as simple as that? I don't recall it.
Mhm.
And I told her what I did, and she said, you have a knack for a budget. You know how to budget. I said, what? No, I don't. She said, you do. And so, and she said, where's your checkbook? So I showed her my checkbook, and she said, you budget right here on your checkbook. I didn't understand that that's what that was. And so I kept really thinking about that. And I got to the point where I was saying, oh my gosh, I don't know. I didn't believe her. I said, no, I must be doing something wrong, but maybe let me go to my bank. I knew the bank would help me. And my mother used to say, if you ever have any questions about your money, go to the bank and ask for help, and one of the bank people will help you. I went to the bank. I went up to the teller and I said, I need to talk to somebody who can help me with my checkbook. She said, okay, hold on a second. And the bank lady was very nice. And she was wonderful. And I showed her my checkbook, and she said, no, you're doing fine. She said, but you might want to, what about, you might want to, she used some words I hadn't used, I had never heard before. And the words were like, a set aside. I didn't know what a set aside was. And she said, well, think about it. You're going to have a bill now where you need to set aside some money so that you can pay that rent at the end of the month when you move out from your girlfriend. You're going to need to set aside. And I said, oh, right. Oh, okay. And that's where my interest in small accounting. I didn't want to become an accountant, but I had an interest in taking care of business.
Mhm.
That was good for me. That was really, really good for me. I think it was probably the beginning of understanding that I was on my own. It was a takeaway. I'm on my own. I can do more than I think I can. I can do my day-to-day living on my checkbook. The bank said so, and so did my girlfriend. I can do this. And so then I would run into things that, oh no, I can't. So I was beginning to teeter-totter between what I could do and my old belief of what I couldn't do.
Mhm.
That was an interesting time to reflect back on, because both were operating in me at the same time.
Mhm.
So there was more like, I like to think of it as an expansion, if you will, of my growth. I was expanding like a flower or a plant, or I was expanding and opening up to understanding more about the world of self.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that was really important. I had grown up, my parents, especially my mother, she was she came up in the time when credit cards came out, and so she was a credit card junkie. She loved the credit cards. She made them work. Now, mind you, my mother later became vice president of Bank of America. She did. But but in her younger years, when we were young kids, she got into credit cards. And so did I. Once I started understanding, I got into credit cards to help me do stuff. And I learned that really helped a lot, but it wasn't what I wanted to keep doing. And then this other thought from the old school of thought would come up from my old beliefs that said, you're not like your younger sister who was always hailed in the family as being very smart. She was the smartest of all the girls. I got A's and B's. I didn't get all A's like she did.
Yeah.
All right. So remember, you're not her. That old voice.
Mm.
You're not her. You're you. And you are not that smart. You can do a checkbook. You can handle these credit cards, but you kind of want to get out of the credit card business. And I didn't discover that till much later. But there were a number of things that led me to constantly have this pull and push of growth and leaning back towards the old familiar routines. And I think one of them, besides my sister, and my sister did continue to, she's an interpreter and translator. She's, moved on. But I didn't feel like I had to do what she did, but I did feel like, oh, I want to be special. I felt that I wanted to. I remember those days when I was a kid, but my mother used to say that that I was charming, I was funny, I could harmonize the tensest moments, but that I would go through life missing trains, boats, and trains, planes, boats, and trains. And I'm like, and I didn't understand. Why would I miss them? Why would someone say that I was, well, I don't know which came first, to be honest with you. Did my mother say that because I had already developed a habit of being late? Or did she tease me with that? And I, after that, developed a habit of being late.
Yeah.
I don't know which came first. I don't know. But here I was in my adulthood now, and I had a habit of always being late. I was hardly ever. Now that's not me today, as you know. You and I have known each other for years, so you know.
Yeah, well, mostly. Yeah.
Stop. Stop that. That's not fair. So, but it came from feeling like I was less important.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to miss me if I was late. No one's going to pay attention if I came in late. Let the show start without me. I can sneak in late. Nobody's, it would be okay, But time went by, and in these 20s, after the divorce, I noticed one time I was late, and I didn't want to be late. And for once, it wasn't my fault. I was actually left the house on time, and instead of leaving the house at the time I was supposed to be there, wherever. And I decided that, I need to look things up. So I looked things up about what is it about people who are always late. And what I found out was that it's an ego thing. It's egotistical of people. There's a need, whether it's conscious or unconscious, there's a need in people who are always late to feel important. Let everybody wait for me because I am really, it's okay if they wait for me because I'm special. I'm me. I'm worthy of that. It's an ego driven, trying to drive the car. The ego can't drive a car. And that was really important to me. And it was one of those steps I took towards changing my life. That when I read that, I said, is that me? Is that my ego? What is that? I didn't care what it was. I don't know if I ever really figured that out. Some things you don't have to figure out. I figured out. And I just made a change. I started getting everything early. Just started getting there early. But it was pivotal towards my growth. It was pivotal also towards understanding maybe I wanted the ego to drive my car because underneath it all, I was insecure about getting on time to see other people. Maybe I was afraid. I didn't want people to know that I needed them. I needed to be around people. I wanted to come in as this independent girl, this independent young woman. But really underneath it all, I needed to have a group of people or a couple of people in my corner. I was living in California, away from home and whatever home was. And now California is my home now. But I was young, and these experiences in the younger part of my life, I treasure them now. They have opened up doors. They have opened up understandings within myself. They have made for me a way of looking at myself that's different than when I grew up. They have made me stronger. They've given me opportunities to be stronger. These experiences have given me opportunities to focus on what I want to focus on, to be the best I can be in terms of how I show up in the world. Yeah. Sure, I liked being liked. Sure. But I also liked liking me. I was liking being liked, but I didn't like me a whole lot. I didn't like me a whole lot. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a critical issue. The jokes and the teasing that I got, even that carried me right into my 20s by my family. Those things became real. They became challenges to overcome. They became, pillars that I needed to knock down and build new ones instead. They became useful.
So that brings up the question then, how did you know at that time? What was different that you started to see these things not as something that was holding you up, but rather something that was holding you back?
Well, that's a good question. I think it came about in a number of ways, but for sure, there was a time when my husband and I were chatting, and I was used to, and he was used to, my constant agreement. But I noticed I started saying, well, let's try this. I started building my diplomatic skills. Oh, at least I thought they were diplomatic. I was like, well, I better, I don't agree with him, but gee, I'm really not agreeing with him this time. Wow. And I was like saying, okay, so I want to say, and it was a simple thing. I remember it clearly. It was about moving some furniture. It was about moving furniture. And I felt very strongly about moving the furniture around. I forgot what the purpose was now. Maybe more light, so I could sit by the light, or I don't know, who knows what it was. But it was very important to me. I wanted to move some furniture around. And as I was just doing it. I was already in motion, and I was, nope. You can't do that. And I was like, excuse me? What do you mean I can't do that? No. I said, let's try this. That's where my attempt at diplomacy came in. Oh, we're just trying it. We don't have, let's try this. And I kept getting a no. Well, I had to stop and think about that. What was I feeling? I didn't process it like that. I can only do it in hindsight, but I was feeling anger. I was feeling discomfort in me to agree and to just go along. I had begun, the thing I remember so clearly is I had begun to reflect and say, well, wait a minute. I just said yes to such and such, and I didn't want to do that. I just said yes to so-and-so, and I didn't really want to do that. And that's what was beginning to come forward into my consciousness. I was like, oh, I just said we could go do whatever. And I said, I'm not giving up this furniture. I'm not going to give it up. And that was different for me and for my husband, because he was like, what do you mean? This was a shock to him, as it would be for anybody. Basically, either he had trained me, or I had trained him in a certain way of being and operating, and now I was abruptly stopping that train and saying, no, we're not going that way anymore. This is the way I want to do this. And that started a whole new series of conversations and, for me, understandings about what it is that I really wanted and why I wanted them, and how strongly I wanted to be seen and heard. And it really came clear to me that I wasn't getting that, and that one of the many reasons I wasn't getting that was because I wasn't asking for it. Mm. That was very important. The diplomacy was beginning to do that. I think it's a good thing. I think it's very good. There was a kindness to it. But when I was met with a no, an emphatic no, I was confused about how to still be kind and still say no to your no. Mm-hmm. That was really a challenge for me. That really hit me in the gut. And that's when I started thinking about all those other times I had put my own decisions, my own preferences, my own ideas, aside, and how this was a turning point. I no longer wanted or could do that. It was not just a want. It became more than a want. I could not do it. Mm-hmm. What a remarkable moment to know that the power of the spirit within me was shining so brightly for my highest good that it literally got me to understand on my human side, you can't do that. You can't do that, Peggy. You can't do that anymore. So the impact was strong and got bigger as I got more clear and felt more confident and grew into my understanding that I was a grown up. I was no longer growing up. I was a grown up who was now growing into my adulthood, but I was now a grown up. What a moment that was. And that's not the first, that would not be the only time, I should say, that would not only, it would happen again and again through life. I'm happy about that, by the way. Yeah, let's keep those home fires burning. But yeah, from a spiritual point of view, also, I look back and understand that the growth, the light, the push inside, the intuition of the power of God's voice within comes through in all kinds of ways, all kinds of which ways.
Mhm.
And I just felt so strongly. It launched the relationship into a new chapter, and it launched me into seeing myself differently. I could no longer operate the way I was operating, and the confusion came as well with it as to when to take my stand, when to agree, when to disagree.
Mhm.
It was life-changing. When I think back too, so when to agree, when to disagree, I recognize too that I had not developed my own, let me call it, it's more like my own impression about what I wanted in life. I
Mhm.
hadn't developed quite yet.
Mhm. You're talking about boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, I mean, we're pretty much contemporaries, so I know boundaries is not a word that we would have used at that time at all.
That's right. No, we wouldn't. No. Uh-uh. And I
So how
didn't.
did that affect your relationship then?
Oh, it began to crumble.
Mhm.
Yeah, it crumbled away. It totally
Mhm.
crumbled away actually pretty quickly. Even though the two of us would try to make things work, but there was no context within the relationship that we could count on to make it work. We even went
Mhm.
to counseling once. Well, he went once. I went twice. So we didn't stick with it very well, did we?
That says it right there, doesn't
That's
it?
right. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody. There's no blame, no shame. But I honestly knew. It's interesting. It wasn't a belief. I knew this was not the person for me. I knew this was not the path.
Mhm.
I knew this was not going to sustain me. I had finally had a very strong, clear-cut opinion. I used to not have opinions very much.
Okay, so here you are. You have uprooted yourself from your original family life. You've moved 3,000 miles across the country. You have started to come into your own, right? And recognize your authenticity, recognizing that there is within you a strength that you had not known before.
Yes.
So how did that then manifest in your life? What
Oh my,
came about as a result of that?
oh my goodness. I I started talking up on my job. I started writing up new ideas. One of the jobs I had, I used to work for the Kirby vacuum cleaner company years ago here in California. It was one of my first jobs. And I came up with an idea for how to sell the vacuum cleaner over the phone, to how to enhance something that they had already had in place. But I came up
Mhm.
with little tweaks. I believe me, I wasn't a big idea person, but I could come up with little tweaks of things that already were in place. So I started that, and then as I grew out of that, I I decided, gee, I want to go back to school. I wanted more education. Um, I had already worked on my bachelor's degree, and so I wanted to enhance that. So I went back to school, and I was working full time, and I had my goal was to get my teaching credential and eventually get a master's degree. So, oh my gosh, I just kept pushing for so many different things. When I worked full time and went to school full time, and then would rush home and always cook a meal because I still wanted. You see, this is still part of my value system. Is to the wife did that. You did not give up that. You still had. I came from a cooking family, so so I always would have food ready, and so that when my husband came home, and because he was working part-time and he was studying, and I said, okay, we both want to get further education. Let's come up with a plan. It was my plan, and he agreed. Let's do something different than what we've been doing. And I said, why don't we, I'll finish my stuff first, and then you get a full-time job. And then when I finish getting my teaching credential, and I ended up getting 2 teaching credentials, but then I'll work, and then when you get done, I'll go back for my master's degree. That was the plan. The plan didn't happen. It was agreed upon. We all agreed. We did baby finger. We did all of that, but it didn't happen. So that was. I'm not answering your question. I'm so sorry. So that just came to my mind for some reason. That just popped in there.
Okay.
But we. So anyway, I moved forward. I just kept trying new things, and the impact for me that I could, not that I should, but that I could try to do new things. I decided, I want to learn how to do some pottery. I tried that. I wanted to learn how to knit. I tried that. I got deeper into my art. My art wasn't a big movement for me at the time. I had a degree in it, but it wasn't. I needed more. I wanted more education in that, and I wanted to be able to teach it. So that's why I went to school for that. But that didn't stop there. I decided, I want to make sure that I can learn chess. So I decided, I just kept pushing as much as I could to learn some things that constantly built up my understanding of who I was, built up my understanding of where my self-confidence would come in, just constantly transformed me into this person that people back home would not recognize and did not recognize when I would visit the East Coast. They just didn't recognize me at all. It was like, no, you've changed. No, oh my gosh. Some people were like, I'm so happy you've broken out of your shell. And, and I'll never forget, my aunt said to me, she was the one that said, I'm so glad you've broken out of your shell. You sound like you're doing great. She said, so have you been smoking marijuana? Because that was the time. And I said, well, I certainly tried. I gave them my best. She said, you're asthmatic. You're not supposed to be smoking anything. I said, would you rather I do coke? I mean, what? Oh my gosh, it was so so funny and so amazing and so good. Uh, I look back on that time as exciting and yet calming. Interestingly enough, it's exciting and yet it's a calming time too. Calming in a way that I don't know if I could express it back then, but I guess today I would say it's just I'm more comfortable within my own skin. Now that I know that I have a skin to be comfortable in. That was important to me at the time. Yeah, so I took that away. And those choices were really good. And step by step, I even though here I was 3,000 miles away and the marriage was gone, and I finally got myself an apartment and I was not staying on my girlfriend's couch, but I started breaking away from that old me. Step by step, I changed my hair. I started wearing different clothes. I bought a newspaper. Do you know how important that was to me that I wasn't using the neighbor's newspaper that was out of I bought my own newspaper. I just kind of was excited to grab life. Just grab life according to my own desires, my own needs, my own influences of myself, my own self-talk, my own self-vision of how I saw myself now. And I just saw I could remember seeing myself as just on the move. I wasn't seeking a diploma. I wasn't trying to graduate from anything with the tassel hanging down on the hat. It wasn't that kind of seeking, but I was seeking self-education, educating myself towards understanding the inner workings of who and whose I am. And I reflected back, and I'm just going to share this with you. Just thought about this a moment ago. When I was in my junior and senior year of high school, I had qualified for becoming a nun. And yeah, because I was in a Catholic school. And I remembered that interest I had in learning more about, the philosophy of religion and the actualization of the religion, and then the embodiment of the teachings. And I just remember that I didn't go through with it. I decided I didn't want to be a nun. I just wanted to learn some more about the power of this practice we call religion, and why it's important in the world. And yet I had left that and gone to college and done all these other things. And now here it was years later. And once again, I'm interested in the power within me because I had made so many drastic changes. I wanted to know, I asked friends, have you changed? Don't you feel something? And you're better now at this than you used to be, aren't you? And I would notice things in my friends and compliment them, and they would go, oh yeah, that's right. No, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. So.
Well, we're going to run out of time, unfortunately.
No.
So here's what I've heard so far that I wanted to really bring out. That is that you found a joy in knowing who you are,
Yes.
learning who you are, and you found a joy in learning itself.
Yes.
The idea of being able to learn something, to be able to grow, to be able to expand your horizons, expand your experience of life.
Yes.
That has been tremendous. And, as I said in my intro, I mean, everything that you've done, you've really thrown yourself into. And you do bring something special to each thing that you do.
I try to. Thank you, Zoe.
How did you get into, now I do want to talk a bit about art because
Oh, yeah.
that's a very big part of your life now.
Oh, yeah. So as a child, I won't take long, but as a child, I used to draw when I was taking my asthma medicine, and to stop myself from itching from eczema, then I would just sit and draw. And I would draw cartoons, basically. And so that was the beginning. But of course, I grew up and I went to school for art. I wanted to be able to paint like the masters. There was at the time, and it still is, it never goes away because it's classical. The Rembrandts, the Renaissance era, the Monets, the Manets, the John Singer Sargent is a big influence in the Boston area. His work is in the museum and the ceiling, and so I was interested in doing that, and I wanted to be able to be as good, and yet I didn't want it to look like their stuff. I wanted to look like mine. I wasn't trying to open up a business or anything like that. I just wanted to be able to do it and have fun doing it. Mm-hmm. And that drew me to it. And so I started out just when I was a kid, I started drawing trees, all the trees in the neighborhood. I just started drawing them with my pencils and crayons. And then, of course, as an adult, I got into it and really started doing portraiture. Then I left portraiture alone because I was very interested in doing abstracts. What was that about? Why would somebody want something on their wall that looked like a bunch of squares or that looked like a hanging mobile, or what is that about? I was just so fascinated about the whole movement of abstract impressionists. And so I started just painting, and I started painting whatever I felt like painting. Well, that grew over time, and I still paint whatever I feel like painting as much as I can paint. I've got my own studio. I've had my own studio off and on for years. I didn't paint hardly at all for the last 10 years because I was taking care of my mom, because she always encouraged my art, and she still is hanging in my ear over here, and Dad is too. But I wanted to pass it on. I wanted to pass on the joy of just creating something. Create again. Tear a piece of paper and create again. So that's what has drawn me to keeping up with it. And now that I am into it now more regularly, I'm excited about it again. And once again, I'm working on something new again, a whole new approach, mixing the combination of abstract and portraiture. So we'll see what I come up with. And I'm going to be having a show pretty soon.
And speaking of being able to see what you came up with, I believe you have Open Studio coming up.
I do. My studio is in Berkeley. Please, everybody, come see my art at Open Studio. It's the first 2 weekends in June. It's at the Sawtooth building. It's a little sawtooth at the top of the building. The address is 930 Dwight Way, Suite 11 in Berkeley. First 2 weekends in June from 12 to 5. Everybody's invited to come by. I share a studio with a couple of other artists, so that it's not just me, but I think you'll just love the environment and the light and the work. And we'd love to have you come by. And that includes you, Zoe.
Why, thank you.
Yes, you must come by.
Well, I just wanted to thank you once again. It's always a joy to be able to have a conversation with you, and even we've known each other for about 10 years now, and we just learn so much every time we talk.
Every time, all the time.
It's been a joy.
Thank you. I'm so pleased that you invited me here and that I could come and be part of your show. I mean, Talk about creativity. Look at what you've done, Zoe. Beautiful. Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you for being here. And whether you're watching this live or you're catching it at the recording, if you have any comment or question about the show, please feel free to email me. You can reach me here at zodimiro@gmail.com. Love to hear what's on your mind. And if you're available next month, come by. First Saturday of the month, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. All right, folks. Be well. Much love. Many blessings. Peggy, thanks again.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
We go to